Hello, namaskar. It's the 15th today, 15th of June. It's around 12 noon. Um, at this point, I would like to make a comment. I would like to analyze the case of the Kerala nurse that is making headlines everywhere. She was a nurse, went to school in Kerala, so that's South India, and she became a nurse. She then migrated to Yemen. Being not only was she a nurse, she was a Christian also. You find many Christian people here in Guyana also who came from South India. There's one operating a university, one lecturing at UG I know of. Many of them are in schools teaching English and other subjects, science, chemistry, and so on. Now, the is that they're converts like Muslims, so they have a kind of fraternal feeling, paternal feeling with these Middle East countries. Many of them famously they like to go to Dubai and all of these places. So, albeit being Zionists and Islam, being Zionists and having Islamist connection, they feel comfortable because they're not Hindus. In fact, my mother also, who was a nurse, she went up to staff nurse before she diverted into dispensing. She was a Christian also, and I learned a lot about the Bible from both her and my father, who were Christians. And she had a lot of Muslim friends. I can tell you that. She had Miss Rahana, Ali Nurse Rahana. She had Miss Ghani, who was a secretary for the steward in West Demerara Hospital there. And many people who associate and feel comfortable with her are Muslim. But unfortunately for this nurse, she went with her husband in Yemen looking for a job. And her husband and child came back. They returned back to India, and she continued. She persisted, and what we can say, she remained there to seek job and to seek financial gains and returns and so on. Now, what happened is that she started a medical clinic, which is a big leap for someone going into a country like Yemen. She had to be well qualified, holding the necessary certificates and papers and so on, as you would say in Guyana. She went there, she opened a medical clinic where she was rendering services, but she teamed up with a partner. You go in these various countries, you go to live. Even in here, right here in my country, you go to school. In my early childhood school days, there were good people I partnered with. In my high school days, I had good friendship, had good friends partner like Portuguese Apollo Rodriguez. I had good friends, people who were from educated upper class, even upper class homes, middle class in school days, friends who would sort you out because they know that you belong to a certain caliber. They can read your behavior, read your physiognomy, your body contours and whatever. I remember when I was in high school, my father, he didn't like me being in 1D. And when I was in 1D, I got transferred to 1C. In fact, I was there in 1D, and there was one dark, like Madrasi kind of girl, She was saying to one of my friends, they own a store or business somewhere, and he was rich. He used to speak in very refined English. probably a second generation Indian national. I don't. He was very clear complexion, well defined features. He would make friends with me and talk to me very kindly, nicely. I came in new in the 1D. I came in late for reasons I can't specify. But then this girl jumped up, probably a Christian girl. She was a dark Indian, kind of Madrasi looking girl. She said to the boy, so she started to quarrel with him, you know. Always she would be picking with him, finding fault to quarrel, and so, you know. Eventually my father had me transferred. I was transferred. I went to farm 1B. I got taken into farm 1B. But I had a friend in 1C. And I used to visit and always go over there to sit down and chat with the people. And I ended up having friends from 1C. So what happened? The administration so organized it that in my promotion to second form, I didn't go into 2B, which I was supposed to go. I went into 2C. And a lot of attention and resources went into making 2A and 2B super classes, or receive valuable and high standard, you know, making 2C falling below 2A and 2B. So one day I went into, I used to go there because I had friend in 2D. I had friend like Rajesh. I had friend like Rafael Reddy, Raul Rambajan. These guys were in 2B. So when I would go over there sometimes to chat with them and meet them, there was one Portuguese guy, his name was Maurice Rodrigues. He was trying to intimidate me from coming in the class, and one day we got into altercation, you know. And I did not know he was a bad guy, he was a ruffian, you know, and people telling me this guy's a ruffian, he's a bad guy. And I shook him up a little bit, so people start to respect me. So that's it when you go into foreign places, outside of your domain, your people kind of don't treat you like one of their own, you know. They don't, this acceptance that you would get when you're born a certain ethnicity or certain places, you know. Places, it's not there, you won't get the same acceptance, you know. So this is similar case and situation happened to Miss Nimisha Priya in Kerala North. I don't know what level of nursing she achieved, but you know, in nursing, there are various grades in nursing. You have to study, write exams, and also ethics is very important. You can't discriminate between patient, race, gender, education, status. You gotta be neutral when you're dispensing medical service. In fact, when I was a pharmacist, I know I was working with some Cuban doctors. They would create situations to test your ethical perfection, you know. So ethics, I don't know how much it can be achieved and how much people can reach or mastery, you know. But what I can say is that ethics is what makes a human from an animal, and what distinguish one class of people, the layman, from the trained, you know. In medical parlances where I was studying, you know, they refer to people outside of the medical field as laymen, uneducated people as laymen. They had respect for professionals, but laymen, they would pick as people without medical experience, without any medical medical certificate or any medical qualification papers. So what happened in this case here is that a professional being teamed up with somebody, they say it's her business partner. I don't know, there are rumors that he was a drug user, that he was from the streets. Some people say he was a businessman, he's educated. I don't know the facts and truth. Maybe one day the people involved will be interviewed themselves. The people will be brought up on the screen. But this is of interest because I know as a child growing up, my mother in the medical field as a dispenser. I know her when she was a dispenser. I can't remember much of her when she was a nurse, when she was working as a nurse, or any other place. But what I can say is that when you go in these outlying areas to render service to people, like in places where people are rustic, or they're not educated, like in the rural areas, and so you have to rub shoulders and meet with all kind of people, and you have to, in that interaction, these people are educated, they are improved, they benefit. But what about your side? You're mostly on the losing side. I know sometimes they will bring things for you, fruits, goat milk, cow milk, bush fish. There was one time when one lady came till from Bushlot there with a big basket on her head, traveler, one of these yellow or blue buses at the time the government had. Travel all the way from Warby's, come to Myconi Hospital and bring a whole basket of these bush fish, hassa, patwal, huri, and the bigger huri, what they call him, can't remember the name of this thing, but she brought them there, and we used to get like this from people bring in and come in, so one time what happened is that you have a bad experience. You're in a place where the majority of the people are natives of that village, like in Myconi. You will be like a punching bag. Many times I find myself like a punching bag, because the people there, they're more well knitted, organized. Even I came back to my own roots here in Bel Air, Sophia, where my mother was born, or I go to Micah. Only 2 weeks ago I went to Micah. People, that connection is not there, this familiarity, this recognition, this friendship you with the natives there is not there, because you didn't grow up with them. You didn't share a struggle. You did struggle of survival, of bracing each other, or coordinating with each other, working together. This struggle together where you brace each other and suffer and share each other problem, and this understanding was not there. So I come back right here in Bel Air. You can't find that kinship and that well knitted relationship that would be there with other people and other times and other places, So this probably is the same scenario that played out here with this nurse who went to open our medical clinic. They say what happened is that as she became successful and so on, her relation became closer to the guy, They were now married, according to what I heard, that the man became more possessive, probably jealous also because she was doing good at her work. And I don't know what percentage he got in return for his partnership, but most likely she would have to pay him, but things went sour after a while, Seems like the Indian and Christian problem, the poor meats almost everywhere, eventually took its toll, took its toll, its price, and she eventually became a victim of battering, of violence, and she gone to the research and the media. They say that she also was presented to the authorities, but nobody did anything. Maybe she had a few friends or whoever, but she didn't get proper support. So when she tried to make effort to start packing and leaving the country, she was restrained, bullied, intimidated. The guy probably became possessive, obsessive, invasive. All these are related terminology. He seized her passport, took her travel documents. How she gonna get them, where he hide them, she doesn't know. So they say the guy was a drug user, and she offered him an injection one day, and it was a sedative. The dose wasn't strong enough, so the next time they offered the injection was a higher dose, which probably knocked him out. And what they did was what they did was she kind of like chopped the guy up, chopped the person and put him in the water tank. You know, put him in the tank, and then later, when she searched and got her passport back, she tried to leave the country. But when she tried to do so, they stopped her at the airport, they jailed her, and she was charged for murder. Everybody started to shout, criminal, criminal, bad, wicked, evil. You know, from my personal analysis, my mother was a nurse. When she retired, my parent, she went to do something better. She opened a pharmacy up at the University of Guyana Road there. And I was very proud to feel more elevated, socially uplifted, and socially well disposed, you know. But she opened her medical care, no recognition was given to her as somebody who did something, as somebody who was professional, educated. And teachers start to label her as a criminal, somebody who was bad, somebody who was violent, somebody who was evil. This kind of connotations start to kind of like surround her, you know. Nobody in that area, only her own people were making efforts to get her free. And they say India hadn't good political relation with the Yemen either. They said Yemen has a reputation for jailing young boys, juveniles, and so, and you know, punishing these juvenile, torturing them. They said it's a country that has a lot of war and problems, not very developed, you know. Well, I don't know. So but they're a Muslim country, an Islamic country. They're a blend of races: African, probably Arabs, Egyptian, Europeans. So I don't know what happened. This girl has been in prison, and people all over the world have been trying to save her. Her husband, her children are worried. The husband says he have to keep lying to his daughter, telling her his mother is coming tomorrow. People in her neighborhood testify that she's a good person, she's quiet, well behaved. Her history and background is like that, you know. So what happened is that a sad case. This is a sad case because remember she's a professional. She's a nurse, and you have to have ethical perfection as you go along the journey and you advance in nursing. Your ethics become more complicated. It become more it starts to grow, you know. It starts to take on texture and quality, you know. But these kind of things are now recognized by lay people. Even in anywhere you go, you find that the layman outside, the guy who hasn't much mental development, he starts to compare himself with you. He starts to see himself as equal to you. He doesn't care whether you had mental training or what you sacrificed to make yourself as somebody. This thing is that they want to see everybody as being equal and all these things. I don't know if in Islam they have spiritual development, spiritual stages that you pass through and you get uplifted. But this is a fact that not everybody are equal. Some people make effort, some people grow and improve themselves. They make themselves better. I know she came from South India, and many South Indians are Christians. My father's family are from South India, and many of them are Christians also. My father was a Christian, though he respected Hinduism. And many Christians are, you know, they kind of like, they feel different about Hinduism. They respect Hinduism, but they're not Hindus. But they're influenced by the Indian culture. They would cook Hindu foods. They know about the Hindu culture. They could certain words and language they would use, and they have the ethics, the ethical training, and the conscience and sensitivity about ethics. They would exercise in their everyday life and make it journey to betterment, to improvement, and so on. So here we have us Indian national, Indian nurse in a foreign country, and the people in that country do not want to see eye to eye with her. I mean, as a professional, you have a right to defend yourself, and the ways you would use would be more akin to the way you were trained and the way you are familiar with. I'm guessing most street people, they would use guns or violence, knives and cutlass, physical repertoire, strong language and this kind of thing. As a nurse, she reacted with what she's most familiar with. She injected, sedated. The guy got an overdose and he died. So the authorities, they say, are making efforts to stay her execution and to I don't know, to have her relief from her burden. So we do hope that she get past this and she can return to her normal life. She's very young. I remember some criminals breaking into my house here. They come to steal. They carried away a lot of things, including our firearms. And the police who were doing the case, they say, oh, the boys are young. They have a future in front of them. I wish everybody could think like this, that the criminals, they are young and they have a future in front of them. So eventually, the boys were not charged or placed through the court or given legal they weren't given legal definition or legal guidance. What happened is this: eventually life and nature punished them. They were not their natural laws. I remember when I was doing my degree there, we did one program from the law, and they said there are natural laws and there are man-made laws. So natural laws came to play in these guys' life, and I can't say what happened to them. I wouldn't like to tell you. It's very bad and sad ending for them. So especially people who have to live in devious times, in trying times, they have to measure up and face a lot of tests and trials, like coming from people who couldn't see into from their side, from their another point of view. So we have like Jesus saying on the cross, Father, forgive them, they don't know what to do. How much time you feel like this? How much time people feel like this? So like they say, human beings, they feel the problem created by beasts, by corruption, by evil people, and it is solved by gods in divine forms. So what I would like to say is, I feel that the Yemen government should release this nurse. They should give her pardon. She didn't even have to pay money, because if she was tried in Guyana, there's no death penalty, because they find that killing and hanging people and executing people, there are a lot of bad outcomes. Sometimes the people found after a while that they are innocent, and it's a sad case too, that sometimes they administer too harsh trial and so on. So what we have happening is that we have a case where we rely on human judgment. God don't not judge here in this case. So we want to bring in holy people to judge the case. So India has solicited the Grand Mufti. I never heard about the Grand Mufti. This is the first time I'm hearing about the Grand Mufti. There is some Muslim cleric in India who is known as the Grand Mufti. He's supposed to be elevated. They say he's a scholar, a Muslim scholar, meaning he read a lot of book, he study a lot of book, and he has a lot of knowledge, So this Grand Mufti, they say he's going to speak on behalf of Nimish. I guess he can do it well, because in my country here, we have a large diaspora of Indians. I'm the fourth generation, but now we have fifth and sixth generation Indians. Many of them are now blending with the material culture, the technological atmosphere being created here, and they're identifying more with the external culture and the mechanics of it, and they're losing what was handed down from their ancestors, people who came and brought knowledge, whether it's from India or Africa or Europe. The spiritual side of it is the technology of how to live, how to know yourself, and how to be at peace with the world and the universe. They lose all of that. So what we have happening there is that there's an increase in dissension among people, misunderstanding and dislike for some petty reason or the other. People have these differences, they can't get along with each other. Each man is like a universe by himself. So for a woman, this must be very trying, and I would say she's a professional nurse. She's not a lay person, she's educated, and shouldn't be labeled and defined as they would treat a layman, uneducated people. Even in Guyana here, a doctor, when you reach a doctor level, he has certain protection and certain rights. The church, the preachers, the pastors. I don't know if the Nurse Association is connected to the World Health Organization, but I think they should have played a part in defending this nurse. Since she subscribed annually to the Nursing Association, she's connected to the World Health Organization in one way or another. She could have been protected by the Nursing Association of India, or even the embassy in Yemen she could have gone into, but none of these came into play. We don't hear any of the nursing bodies speaking out, or the nurses around the world saying anything. So she's like a one-man army. Just she and the social activists, human rights representative are trying to speak out and ask for her pardon. Now, why I'm so concerned about this case is because I know when I was going and work in various places, my mother had to work in various environments, various parts of this country. Some places she had to live there. Some places she traveled to and fro. But I could tell you, going in different environment where people need health care, or which is depressed, or which is not much developed, is very trying. Sometimes there are hostile people there. I myself, as a health worker, like many other pharmacists, you're placed in places where you don't have good co-workers, or the environment is bad. When you come out there, people are threatening you, they want to fight. One place I work every day, people are coming for stitches, suturing, for dressing, cut, clean and dress, C&D, for injections and minor surgical operations and so. So I was chatting with one of the guys there from the village, that in that particular village, that kind of ethnicity, the people, they fight a lot among themselves. So how are you going to do, how are you going to address this, People are like that. They say the only real understanding that bring unity is a spiritual one. Only spirituality can help people to blend and live compatibly together. And even we find this today in many places of the world. People are taking to yoga and gurus and spiritual life to help blend their marriage, their job relationship, the social condition, But I'd like to make a quotation from V.S. Naipaul's book, which is Ganesh the Mystic Mazur, in which Miss Cooper was telling Mr. Ganesh, she said, Ganesh, what are you going to do with all them people in the country? You're a madman, you're drunk or something. You're taking all your education and you're going to waste it there. You're going to waste your education with all of those people in the rural areas there. People gonna respect you for your education. Where you're going in there, you're drunk or something. That for me, in that movie Ganesh the Mystic Mazur, I think there's a little bit of truth sometimes where your environment can outbalance, or this is one of the challenges professional people face, in which you are outnumbered, in which there's imbalance between professionalism and unprofessionalism, amount of trained people and untrained people in a neighborhood or community or in a work environment, that you gotta face when you're a missionary and you're going to work somewhere. You have to face and live with these challenges, And this is what happened in many areas. We have to live there. Sometimes you get into fight. Remember one day I was going to school there in West Dem there. I went to St. Sweeten Primary School. I wanted a guy there. I don't want to call his name. Still remember his name because what he told me. He said, you're living in a government hospital and you're probably eating a lot of rat. You got a lot of big rats running in them hospital and in the train and these things. You must eating plenty of rat. So there's the kind of thing you have to meet with people, in different environments. You have to rub shoulder with people. You have to face all kind of people. And the glory of it all, I would think, is getting adapted, getting adjusted, or getting mastery of those environments. That's the glory of it all, It's not that passivity. I don't believe in passivity work, to be a punching bag, but in that exchanging of samskaras and innate humanness which you would express and which you would react, it brings about transformation, evolution, and development of a nation, of a society, of people. So it's not like one man, he's a superstar and he goes somewhere and he wants all the name and fame for himself. It does happen like that. You have a duty to do, you have a role to play, something to do, and you expect the boss. Usually the system would support you if you come to do something good. They're supposed to support you. The police, the other educated people, the school teachers, they sometimes, but when they are professional people compared to the untrained, is not in balance or not enough, sometimes you get outweighed and outbalanced and bad things come into play and all these things, So this is how it is sometimes that people go there and they face challenges, and if you're a man of culture, high principle, and coming from an environment like Indian, and they say Hindu culture and Hindu tradition is stronger in South India, so these people probably have sensitive nature, sensitive minds that would cause them to react. Even here in Guyana, the Hindus and the Africans, they often fight, not so much with the Portuguese and the Americans, but on what ground they fight? Ethics. The Indians have an innate sensitivity to moral principles, and they become rebellious. They speak out. They would go to any length to protect their values and their principles, So, and this is not only goes for Africa, and they would also exercise this rights against Europeans, Chinese, Amerindians. I think it's because of the culture, the high culture, and the sensitivity to certain values, And even when they are converted and they change, they become Christians or they're converted to Muslim, they still have this, some part of them doesn't die. They're still Hindus, they're still Hindus, and they carry this Indianness, which is in their genes, which is in their blood, which is in their features. The characteristic is still there. So although they are Hindus in spirit or Muslim in spirit, like the Pakistanis, their part of them is still Hindu, because that's the birthplace of Hinduism. India is the birthplace that gave birth to one of the greatest civilization, Hinduism, which is, India is 500 million years old, and according to Sri Shananamurti, human beings only appear on the planet 2 million years now. So prior to that, we don't know what was India, who was living there, what was living there, whether they're aliens or gods or what. But we do have, despite them having such grand culture and great culture, you do have people from this culture, they come out and they display abnormal egotism or confusions or misunderstanding sometimes you have with them, you know. But they, again, we have the human part is still alive in them. No matter how much culture tries to change your education or Western education, whether it makes you a nurse or a doctor or a lawyer or engineer, there are still human frailties. So we have to remember that these people, they go into other nations to work to impart education, training, not to go there as criminal or murderers. They go there as professionals. So to brand them as something other than a professional, rather than somebody who had an unpleasant experience, an unfortunate experience. You know, people just press down and start to, you know, because they're in, have the advantage, the majority is there, you know, they start to press down. I doubt whether she had that kind of freedom to take advantage of anybody. She was in minority. She was one person among thousands, right? She had no association with other Indian nationals. And she, in that condition, she would have, her exploitative nature, her advantageous position would have been curtailed a lot. She couldn't have exercised 100% of freedom. She had to be controlled. She was under regulation, and she was being curtailed by the society, by the environment, by the laws, by the people, by norms, by value, by dogmas, by superstition. All these things play an important role in social living. Morals, dogmas, norms, traditions, culture. These regulate people a lot. You live here in a country and you can't get up and dance and shake up your hips in the Caribbean. Something wrong with you. Because why? That's the culture. You gotta know to hold a beer in your hand and shake up your foot and shake up your waist. And them thing, you gotta know to carry a good cigarette in your hand, have nice black lips, and a pungent breath breathing, your pungent expectorations. Whatever you say, whatever you do, it carry odor and it carry force. It got weight and color and texture and sound and everything. So that would make the difference from people who are improving, evolving, you know, actualizing, from those who are just operating and struggling or existing, you know. So there's a disadvantage of having missionaries going on to places to help, and they're getting bad returns. This happens everywhere you go. And I, as a professional, I work as a medical person. I had this experience. I could tell you go many places to work, and so, and you're in minority there. I know what is it like. Sometimes you go to work there. I'm a vegetarian, and people are cooking beef and pork and fish and chicken, turtles, lizards, iguanas, and you're smelling that smell. You know, they're eating there, they're selling, they're eating, they're handling and touching things that you have to hold and all these things. They're coming in your area to eat all their things and drink the beer, and that scent and song, smoking, blowing the smoke, you traveling in the bus, all those things there. What you can do, you are suppressed. You are being curtailed by the rules, the stigmas, the ethics, the norms, the morals and values of that neighborhood. And if you rebel, and so, you know, it doesn't always play out or work out well, you know. So it's like this in many cases, and it might be the same in this lady's cases too. She's a big woman, a mature woman, you know. And these kind of women, they're not criminals in their own country, they're criminals in a foreign country. So I do hope they can contrast the two people's background, the two people's history, social history, educational history, academic history, and come to a better conclusion, you know. I think gone are the days when we have foreigners coming in your place and you can respect them. You can be hospitable, jovial, kind. Today, people don't trust each other. There are so much walls and division and barriers. You know, I always like my own culture, Indian culture, because it stays, God speaks differently in different places at different times to different people for different reasons. You know, whether you're Zionist or you're Abrahamic or Islamic or Ishmaelites, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, because when you're wherever you working or wherever you're doing, you know, you're a human being. You're a human being. And despite our differences at culture and tradition and all these kind of stuff and story, you know, in the end, people grow from these experiences. They learn. And if you're going to execute somebody, they will never learn from that experience. There's something in the Hindu technology, it's called karma. What you do with you create a bioenergetic rhythm in your system that affect your mind, your health, your body. Before that is removed or from you, you have to go through a neutralizing effect, what they call purgative. You like you going into hell in a lower realm, a lower dimension where you have to be you know, your karmas have to be removed, this negative energy, before you can be well again, you can be strong again, you can be fit again, you know. So in this case with this lady, she might get a chance to grow and learn. That's why in Guyana they removed the executions they used to do long ago. The hanging, the execution, they don't do that anymore. We've been trying and fighting because there would be so much banditry and killing in our country here, but still they couldn't restore the execution system. They want it out of the system. So now you have lifetime imprisonment, or the police create circumstantial pressure, environmental pressure, social pressure to keep these criminals under control and so on. So I do hope Miss Norse and her family will be reunited and they will have happy days again. And she should try reconverting back to Hinduism, you know, and hope this improves the relation between India and Yemen. You know, Yemen, they say they don't have diplomatic relations with Yemen, and they're struggling to intervene and to have things remedied and corrected, you know. They don't know how they will go it, how they will have it done. They're trying to pay. They say if you kill somebody in Yemen, the family can only pardon you if the court says no. So the family has to accept money, or high authority like the president can pardon you. They can pardon you. I don't know how they will get over this, but sure, execution has been postponed from tomorrow till we don't know when. And what happened is that they gave her some more time to sort things out and plead the case. So right now they have a fight so much fight going on between the Middle East and the Zionists and the Islamists. The Zionists, we call them, the Abrahamic religions, they're fighting a lot. All of their cousins, the Christians and Muslims are cousins, they're killing each other, they're fighting each other throat down. Like this lady, she went in her place that would have given her family reception and family privileges, Islamic places, but she didn't get that. Now her own countrymen and people are trying to help her, are trying to get justice for her. This is sad, you know. So albeit all of this, you know, there's still hope and that she might get out of it, you know. Many people are with her, siding with her. But so sad that this guy had to face that kind of thing, and this should give most of these street guys and most of these playboys, sportsmen, successful people, and education also, that medical people, nurses, especially doctors, you don't go poking your finger to them or try to walk in on their toes. Doctors, they know a lot about chemistry, toxicology, poisons, side effects that can harm you from drugs. Rather than using the benefits and the use of drugs, they can use the side effects also to cure you. You know, like some drugs has a side effect to release blood pressure, to cause vasodilation. They would use that side effect to bring down the blood pressure rather than use it for the benefits. So in this case, we have the side effects play an important role. So people usually use side effects, can harm you. They can use it if it can have an effect on the heart, the circulatory system. We can increase the speed or decrease the speed. They can use it on the respiratory system. If the system is shut down and you can't breathe, or they use it on the kidneys. And so people have different ways, and these doctors and medical people, that's how they fight, through their own knowledge that they were trained, you know. That's how they would fight and respond and reply to you, you know. Many times you go to hospital for treatment, even the doctors, if you don't come up to our standard, they won't treat you, give you the best A grade, they give you a C grade or a D grade. I saw that with my eyes many times. You know, people who have agreeable personality get privilege. People who are more courteous, who are educated, upper class, they might be given some privilege. Poor people, if you have sympathy, they got privilege, they get good treatment. But in many cases, there are people, for some reason or the other, they don't get the best of treatment and just get Panadol and some vitamins and send you away. So that's the way the rest of the medical system goes, right? There are people can do a lot of intricate networking with their clients, with their customers. If you go to a pharmacy or a clinic, in this case a nurse at a medical clinic, so it's hoping that people can be paired with compatible partners. You know, if in many places they team you up with people that you can't get along with. I had to work for many years with a cleaner, and I had to bear my chafe and swallow my pride. Many times you gotta do it with people like porters, attendants, having a wise and intelligent upper hand over you, or a voice over you. You know, you gotta bear up and you gotta live with it. But all of that is part. People don't approve and ability for reason why I don't know, for reason why I can't say, right? But what I do know is the good people, the sensitive people, the delicate people, they suffer a lot for this harmonious relationships. They suffer from violence, they suffer from losses, they suffer from hunger, starvation, and torture. Human rights issues, as they call them, you know. So we gotta look at all these things and see whether politics, whether society, whether our educational system, how they're teaming people up, pairing people up, whether this is good. Only recently we had a case here in Guyana with a young lady, Adriana Young, and this caused a lot of eye-opening and clarity for a lot of people, a lot of revelation. People had a lot of sense being injected into them, you know. This had to come about through suffering, through trauma, through upheavals. Then people would learn and they would react, you know. So don't know. I think for personally, I think this case with the nurse from India there, that's very much a case of self-defense, a case of one person against a million. I would call that in some way injustice and discrimination. Though I'm sad, I don't say that it's good that he died or it's good that he's met his end, but people who know could have intervened. That's why we have co-workers, neighbors, social workers. But the authorities just said they didn't do anything when she went to complain. So they say she's really now housed in a prison, just waiting for execution date. And the Indian people are otherwise way time on their feet and on the go to have the execution stayed and resolved. So how this will come about, we don't know, whether diplomatic channel, whether by the grace of God, maybe prayers, maybe intervention. But this is a chance for karma yoga, and all those people who have to do karma yoga and want to improve themselves, improve their meditation, improve their personality. This is a chance to support a good cause, to work for something good, to aim for better outcomes from this case. It's a case for medical people. I'm surprised that it hasn't been featured in our newspaper or media. The Nursing Association didn't mention it. They're not aware of it here in Guyana. I think the nursing associations and the medical association in the West Caribbean has a greater unity with Europe and the Western Hemisphere more than those Indian countries, it seems, because she's a nurse. She was trained in the Western technocracy, in the Western system. Obviously, she's not a nurse in the alternative or naturopathic medicine. She's a nurse in allopathic medicine, meaning Western chemical medicine, Western, what do you call these medicine? Chemical medicine. She was passed through Western education, so I guess she should get some protection from association, from an organization, from our colleagues. Here we pharmacists have to pay every month. Every year we have to renew our membership in the bodies, the pharmacy bodies, and they regulate us a lot. Our ethics, how we work, how we perform, what we do in the pharmacy. I had one friend, in fact, who was in the same class with me here in Guyana. She was an A-grade student. Imagine a top A-grade student. She was an Indian, also pharmacist. I don't want to call her name. When she graduated, she left this country and she went abroad in one of the islands. I think it was the Bahamas. And she gave somebody a wrong medicine, and that person died. I know what they did to this pharmacist girl. This girl, the jailer. And since then, I never heard about her or mention of her or saw her back again since then. I just heard the pharmacist talking that she was in jail in the Bahamas when this happened nearly 30 years ago. We just came out of university, and so if somebody gave an overdose and somebody died by mistake and then they try to dispose of the body, self-defense come into play, fear, knowing what it is like in those countries, what you would get, you would try to dispose the body, you would try to escape. So we don't know what the analysis would come about, but this is my own attempt in the humanitarian field, to do something human. I hope the Grand Mufti, who is coming out of India, will have a better saying, will have better logics, will have a better oversight of everything, and inspire us all to be better humans, to carry ourselves with more responsibility for each other and more regard to each other's differences and sensitivity and so on. I hope the world learns a lot, and this helps us as human beings to improve. So much for my medical colleagues, pharmacists, nurses, doctors. I hope you all make comment and bring this up in your classes. When it comes to ethics, I think all the health professions, they have ethics. Code, a language code of language, code language that you have to exercise in your daily life. I remember one day I went to Port Snell. I was walking in the country area, and there was a building up in Paradise there who was responsible for the health section in that whole region. There's not a big one I'm talking of, Triumph. That a bigger one there where they are right now in Paradise. They had a big building there. I went in there, I talked to the parcel officer. He said, well, when you're out of the job, when you're not in the job, you don't have ethics to follow anymore. You got just like everybody else. People, you can say anything, they can say anything. You can sit down and drink and cuss each other now. I said, no, it's not like that. Pharmacists have to carry the ethics all the time with them, whether they're in the pharmacy or out of the pharmacy. It's that what makes us a pharmacist. We're a pharmacist whether we're in uniform or not. It's a paper, it's a title we horse called a doctor. You call them Dr. John or Dr. Palm or Dr. Tim or Tom. They have this doctor carry with them as a part of the name. So is a pharmacist. When you get a doctorate in pharmacy, they also call you a doctor. So there's this system of ethics. We have it in pharmacy, and we have to take the Hippocratic oaths, that the oath of ethical oath and these kind of things. And I think the nurse also have. Though apart from a mother, I didn't get much dealing with these nurses here in the country. They're very reclusive and offensive, So they're all in the protections, defensive side, they are more sensitive. You don't see much and hear much from them. I shared some classes with them when I was doing the degree program, and I can tell you something, they're very ethical people also. They have a lot of sensitivity to morals and behavior and standards. I remember I was working Georgetown Hospital there, right in Guyana here as a pharmacist student. I was on the wards, had to do clinical pharmacy. And the nurse said I'm giving them headache and pressure. They said I'm always cleaning my nose, my finger, my nose. I'm always cleaning like this. Used to make criticism and jokes like this. So they have a sensitivity to decency and values and ethics. It's not that they're lay people, they're the common man, they'll be trained. Like for me, we train from nursery. How much years do you spend in a nursery? Before you go to nursery, you're in play school. You have to spend 2 years in play school. Then you go to nursery. I remember my nursery school teacher was an American. That was at that school by Vincentian Road there. Now they converted into a bar, a kind of hangout place, There used to be a red and white building there, wood building. There was an American woman running that building. She was a skilled ventriloquist and a good speaker. She would address us many times like big people and respect us. And she would talk to us. But eventually I was pulled away from there. I went to primary school. Primary lead up to 4 years also. 5 years primary. And 5 years secondary. And another 5 years in university, depending on your diploma, master's or PhD, where you're going for. So you spend a long time in the classroom with educated people from all over the world coming to lecture, teach you, students also from all over the world, books from all over the world, Russian books, English book, American books, Indian books. A lot of Indian textbooks are out there in the university now. Indian lecturers, you meet a lot of Indian lecturers. And in fact, one Indian nurse taught me here in university. She was teaching nutrition. She was a Christian also. And she was a preacher, a pastor in her church. But she was a nurse, had a master in nursing. And so you see that they had good standards on ethics and sensitivity and rationality and intelligence. Not that they're uneducated people, they're stupid people, or they're mud in their head or clog up brains, or what people would say, or dumb. They're not dumb, they're intelligent, clever people, and sad to see that the medical people are being pulled along like this and being dishonored and disrobed this way, I was hoping that a lot of more medical people would start reacting and speaking out, but as it is, we see like not much people care, people have their own problem and their own cross to fetch, and so let's hope that this thing will resolve itself and people will come out more educated, more informed and matured from this experience, And those who have something to learn, they will learn it. And those who have something good to say, they can say it. There's opportunity for us here to better it, to don't make it degrade, degenerate, and get into something that will lead to another World War III or a misunderstanding of people and dissensions and hate and all these things, We hope that something good will come out. It will bring the two nations closer. It will help to bridge people rather than create walls. We have something valuable and honorable blooming here and becoming. Namaskar, pleasant good afternoon. It's about 1 o'clock now. Namaskar, all the best. Good luck to all.